Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debi Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. Check us out. And it's Tuesday, so that means it's office hours. Ask me anything. I hang out here for an hour and take your questions. We do have one question that was sent ahead of time. You can send them ahead of time using deltacx.link/ask. And because I'm talking out loud, my dog Olivia thinks I'm talking to her. Olivia, do you want to say hi? Come here. Oh, she's kind of heavy. Thank you, Olivia. So Olivia and I will be answering your questions today, and you can ask them through deltacx.link/ask, or you can ask them right in the YouTube chat or the LinkedIn chat. I'll be monitoring both, and Olivia will help if she's awake. You're going to help? Are you helpful? Boop. So free dog adventures today, no extra charge. All questions are welcome. And again, if you do want to talk about something more anonymously, because maybe you're struggling with something at your job, you can use deltacx.link/ask. We have a question. Is Olivia the wanderer? Are you the wanderer? Do you like to go places and see your friends? You're not going to talk on camera? Okay. Yes, as you can see from the GPS caller, hashtag not sponsored, Olivia is our wanderer if you are following them on Instagram. And then she likes to sleep in the house. What do you think? Remember, never do that to a dog you don't know. They'll kill you. Hello, Charlene. So we do have a first question, which we'll answer together, okay? So the first question says, what do you think job descriptions are looking for in a candidate when they ask for some experience with working with Agile development teams or Agile environment? And if you don't have any, what are some skills you could talk about that could help with that gap? That's a pretty cool question because I do find that that's a whole, certainly in a lot of boot camp curricula. Very often boot camps don't teach you anything about what's Agile. What's an Agile environment? What do you have to do in an Agile environment? Do you want to say hi to everybody? No, you're going to... Come on, sit nicely. But I think boot camps should cover this, and they don't. And I always think it's a real flaw in boot camps. They have a real opportunity here to explain to you Agile environments and who else works in them and how you're going to work with these people. It's really hard to have Agile experience when you haven't yet had your first job. That's the same catch-22 everybody is in. How can you have worked in an Agile environment when you haven't worked in an Agile environment? And so that's where some of this falls apart. I don't know if anybody has a good course on working in an Agile environment as a UX practitioner. If there's a really good course on that, shout it out in the chat room. Let's yell it out, even though, of course, I won't have taken it, so I won't know for sure. But I do not know of any course in particular there. And we talked on Friday in the reaction stream about how Scrum.org's course on Scrum with UX is not something you want to take because they teach lean UX. And you all know what I think of lean UX. Hi, Vasya. So, Olivia, you seem very sleepy. Why don't you go do your own thing? Bye. Okay, bye. No, I'm on a show. I'm on a show. We can't hang out right now. So, bye. So I don't have a great answer here for you other than I do agree that it would be good for you to have some experience working with an Agile environment. But of course, how do you get that? To me, that's really something that I hope apprenticeships will bring in so that before you go to that first job, you will have that Agile environment experience. For the most part, an Agile environment is really a lot of different things, and that's another problem. It's not the same thing in every company. There's so many different variations of what Agile might be. By the way, while I'm answering this question, you are welcome to ask some questions. I see one coming in now on the video ask, so that'll be our next question. But please ask your questions in the YouTube and the LinkedIn chat or through deltacx.link/ask. So unfortunately, Agile can mean anything from teams working really well together and very efficiently, where they measure time in what's typically called sprints, and all kinds of different ceremonies happen during the sprint and at the end of the sprint, to companies doing all kinds of really garbagey, terrible, disorganized things and pretending that's Agile. So I don't really have a great answer for you on this one. So this was a good question, but it doesn't have a great answer. And that's because I don't know of a handy course that says, hey, UX person, here's what working in Agile looks like, or here's what it could look like across a spectrum of different possibilities. So if someone finds that course, let me know. We should probably check it out and see if we can recommend it. Let me see what our next anonymous question is, and then we'll take the question from YouTube. Oh, I see. The question is, hi, Olivia. How are you so cute? Always a good question for Olivia. Olivia? Oh, she's gone. She hit the road. How is Olivia so cute? I don't know. Good hunting dog genes around here. That would probably be it for Olivia. All right, friend of the show, who I know I'm going to pronounce wrong. No, it was Megan, right? Megan is here and says, is it possible to have an Agile experience without the development part? Another good question. So if you've been hanging around the universe long enough and you're not a hermit, you've probably seen that not only is there Agile with respect to can put you up on the screen. Not only is there Agile with respect to engineering and how engineering likes to work on projects and how they don't want to work in a waterfall way, but then you'll see that some people are saying, oh, we need to have business agility. We need to have businesses be Agile. And of course, the question is, well, what does that mean? And what I have found so far is that I haven't found one thing that it means. Again, it seems to mean businesses should be more efficient and they should be lean. Like I end up in these weird loops whenever I try to look this up. It's almost like, being lost in Wikipedia. Whenever I try to look up like what's business agility, it just seems to be like we'll make better decisions and we'll strategize more and we'll be lean and we'll care about customer satisfaction. I'm always like, okay, but what are you doing about that? So I have to admit, I am seeing the word agility pop up for other things. Mostly it's either engineering or the business. But I sometimes feel a little bit cloudy about what that actually means. We've got another question from Megan, and we'll copy paste it and put it up on the screen. Is there an Agile handbook that small design teams can follow to start using Agile or get up to speed practicing Agile methodology? I would say if there is one, you are welcome to ignore it, because remember, Agile was invented for engineering. It was how engineering wanted engineering to work. So we don't have to work that way. Now, we're going to have to make some accommodations so that we can, fit into engineering's world a little bit and be a partner to them. But if you just have a UX team doing their own thing, they don't have to follow any of the methods or approaches or ceremonies of Agile. So for example, over in my Delta CX world, when we are working on a project for a customer, let's say there's research and there's architecture and design, we're not doing Agile. We didn't measure our time in sprints. We don't have showcases. We don't do retros. We'll talk about what went wrong and we'll fix it, but we don't have formal retros in a certain cadence. We don't have daily stand-ups. We don't have all of these meetings and ceremonies that normally come with Agile. We just plan our work and follow through on our plan. So Agile is something I'm only stuck doing when I'm in a workplace or a team or an environment where teams are being Agile, so they expect me to fit in like a puzzle piece or a gear and to meet them in some ways with their Agile approach. But Agile is not really something that totally makes sense for us. And I'm not saying we should be waterfall. There's plenty of shades of gray between waterfall and Agile, and probably something better we'll invent in the future. So I would say don't feel like you have to be agile like yourself. It reminds me of a character who watches the show Are You Being Served? It's an old British comedy, and there's a character who very often will say something and then she'll say, and I am unanimous in that. Which is kind of funny because unanimous means many people are sharing the same opinion. She's just talking about herself and she is unanimous. And so it reminds me a little bit of that. Let's see. We've got a couple of other things popping up. I'm going to take these out of order. Fazia says, business agility sounds to me like business leaders do not and will not provide a vision or a roadmap for long-term deliverables. Day-to-day agile will not compensate for the lack of strategy, at least not in SAFe. SAFe is kind of the worst version of agile out there. I've been fighting it for 7 years now, and it's actually getting worse. So I don't know who they're listening to or whose money they're taking or how they're doing this, but SAFe is the worst. And I think that while there's something to be said for the general concept of agility, that it's good for us to imagine changing when we find that we're going in the wrong direction, changing when we get better information, seeking out feedback to get that better information. I find that almost nobody does this. They say it, it's in the books, it's in the training, it's in the principles, and then nobody's doing it. They just want to run fast with guesses. They think agile means work really fast, guess, figure it out later. So, yep, we still need strategies, vision, roadmap, prioritization, even if some of that has to, now obviously your vision shouldn't change. That should be locked in pretty well. Strategies could change. If you learn something new about customers or the market that force you to change your strategies, you would have to be agile and say, no, we're not going to keep doing it that way. We're going to have to go in another direction. But you should have done that even before we knew the word agility. Like that just makes sense. Vipul says, what do you think? Okay, so here's a question. Let's copy paste it. What do you think about, let's put it up on the board too. What do you think about designers talking about a lot of stuff? Talking a lot about stuff and end up doing the same old stuff. I see it all the time. That's a lot of stuff. What I think you might be saying, and you're here so you can clear this up for me, is I think you say people are talking a lot about stuff, maybe about innovation or about doing something different or thinking out of the box. And then what do you know? They just do the same old thing. They do the thing that they know. They do the thing that they've done before. They do the thing that worked at their last job. So let's try it here. I think that's what you're saying, but I could be wrong. So let me know if I'm not getting you. Give me a quick follow-up on that and let me know what I'm doing. So what do I think of that? I think it's theater. I think that when we talk about how we want to innovate, but then we just copy the competitor, that's not innovation. I think a lot of this ends up theater and bull. So I would have to say I think it's a shame. I think that really strong CX and UX practitioners ultimately don't want to do the same old stuff. Now, the question is, did something about the job or the project force them to do the same old stuff or force them to guess at stuff? I can't say. But I think that many of us, especially if you're watching this channel, you probably want to make sure that you are doing something right for this customer in this context, which may be the same thing that worked in the past, and it may not be. But you have to have the critical thinking and the openness and the curiosity to try the thing you haven't tried before, usability test it, and see if it's a match. So that's what I would say there. We've got Oz, he's back from his road trip, which I was so happy to follow. Oops, wrong buttons here. So happy to follow on Instagram. Don't forget to follow Oz here on YouTube. Excel on Fire. You will learn about Excel. It's good to know Excel, everybody. He said, my question is, have you ever driven the Virgin River Gorge in Arizona and Utah? I just drove it. It was so beautiful. You are right. I have not driven that. I have done a lot of road trips across America a number of times. times, especially back many years ago when I had a big Toyota 4Runner, and that was really fun to drive everywhere. Super comfy. Great ground clearance. I have not driven that particular route, and at the rate I'm going, I don't know when I will. But I loved all of your pictures from your road trip, and you hit a couple of spots I've been to. So keep those pictures coming, Oz, and I hope you're doing well. And the question is, did you travel with your hot sauce? I bet you did. We've got some anonymous questions coming in. Let me go copy paste them from our world. Okay, here's our first one from, looks like Kate. And we have an anonymous question from anonymous person with a question. So I see you both, Kate and anonymous. So let me flick back and let's talk about these things. So Kate says, what do you think should be the ideal cooperation process between a designer and a product owner? I saw research where people from these fields don't agree which responsibilities are UX and what is product ownership. You probably saw that Nielsen Norman Group article, I think it was. Who is responsible for strategy, product vision, and what to check next in your opinion? What responsibilities are UX and what's PO in a project? You're right. This is hotly debated, and it's really tough because UX sometimes feels like, wait a minute, I should have some power to prioritize what we're going to do. And product owners feel like, I can sketch screens, I should be able to do UX work, I can talk to customers. So we do have this feeling that we can do parts of each other's jobs. Now, this is where team projects, team charters would help us. Team charters help us know what these swim lanes are and stay in these swim lanes. But if you had to ask me, oh, and of course, says, yep, I had 2 bottles of ghost pepper sriracha with me. I thought you would. So if you're asking me what I think is the optimal way to go, and this may not be how it normally goes, but the optimal way to go is, here's the way I've been explaining it lately. Many companies are feature driven. A stakeholder, someone from business intelligence, a business analyst, product person, someone says, we should build this thing for people. It'd be really cool if our software did this thing. And then what happens is that gets put into a backlog or a plan, and it gets prioritized, and now we're going to build a thing. But the question, then usually product shows up and says, hey, UX, we're going to build these things, so you better get us some wireframes. And very often we show up and we go, is that the right thing to build? Are we sure? Or is that really the top priority? And that's where we start going, now it looks like there's some overlap here. What I think would be the better way to go, and I'm going to be writing an article on this. I think I've already dictated it into Otter. I just have to write it out. So article coming soon, everybody. So that's a feature-driven organization. A task-driven organization, which you'll hear us talk a lot about in the micro lessons playlist when Larry Marine shows up and talks about tasks. And a task-driven organization or team says, let's get to know what our customers are doing, or our potential customers. How are they doing this now? What's working for them and what's not? What's their task? What's their workflow that we have something to do with? What are they doing before they come to our site? What are they doing after? What triggers them needing to come here and do this or work on this or buy this or whatever it is? There's a huge arc there, and your company's just in the middle. There's befores and afters we need to think about as well. That's the whole task. And in a task-driven organization, which I think is still rare, what would probably happen is a lot of CX or UX research first. Qualitative research first, and some quantitative as well, can add a little color. So voice of the customer stuff, interviewing people, observational research to see what they're doing, tools, knowledge, workarounds, issues, blockers. You know where I'm going with this. And that way we can then feed product. It could be a partnership. Hey, here's what we learned about humans. Here's what they kind of expect from us. Here's where they've got workarounds that our system could account for and build something better. Here's where their task is inefficient and we could solve that or improve that. Now, if you have UX working with product so that product is better informed, what I like to say, business intelligence and risk mitigation. Now product can say, aha, okay, so let's prioritize some features that improve or solve some of the things you were just telling me about. These seem to be important things for these customers, for our product in general, or this area of our product. Now we can prioritize these. So I think that ultimately a feature-driven organization thinks that product gets to make all the plans and then tells UX what we're making. And very often we're just treated as a pair of hands making stuff. But if we can shift towards customer centricity, if we can shift towards caring about the customer's task and workflow, reality, needs, pain points, then what's going to have to also shift is CX and UX will feed product. And then product will then prioritize stuff. And then the CX and UX research will feed UX. The designers, the architects, who will then make the things. I think that's the optimal way to go. I think we're not going to see that right away because I think some teams are still enjoying too much of a sense of power. Like, I'm product, I get to say what we're doing and when. UX, go make me wireframes. But I think eventually there's going to have to be a shift when enough people are noticing that we're guessing a lot. And it's wasting a lot of money, and sometimes it's burning customer trust. So it's going to be important to shift towards that task-based approach and towards customer centricity. Ultimately, you can call it UX maturity if you want, but if you think about it, I believe UX maturity is customer centricity. Our low UX maturity companies aren't that customer centric. They're feature centric. They just want to build stuff because it's cool, or the competitor has it, or the boss likes it, or whatever. The higher maturity companies invest in research, wait for the research analysis to be done, and they're informed by it. So customer centricity really is UX maturity, and that's why I think if we start saying customer centricity to companies, it's so much better than saying to them, you're low UX maturity. Now everyone's defensive. I think we have to find a way to say, let's improve our customer centricity. All right, now we've got an anonymous question. Thank you, Kate. Anonymous question's a little long, but I welcome long questions. Let's read it out. My company is redesigning enterprise software, and they're doing it through workshops with one senior user from the client side, asking them what they'd like to see or omit from the software. This means they'll design based on this user's perception, not on observational findings. We're already halfway into wireframing, but I want to first observe the users that propose a UI that would minimize mistakes and meet clients' KPIs and goals. What would be the best approach to this, since another designer's already working hard on a prototype without proper research, and I'd be a few steps ahead with insights? They're definitely not going to wait on me to do the research, but they're willing to listen to my findings. But I'm afraid they might waste time or go in the wrong direction, which is a problem since they're designing along with the client. Okay, super unfortunate, but very common. And thank you for sharing your story. This is, of course, very common. Most of you right now are going, yes, it's Tuesday. Can I still start drinking? This is very, very familiar. And of course, I'm sorry. Now, if they're willing to listen to your findings, go for it. Go for that research. Make sure you are researching with more than one user. Don't make the same mistake they are. Don't just go find a different user. So if you are going to do research and you're talking about observational findings, I would normally suggest that the rule of thumb is 8 to 12 people per customer or potential customer type, segment, bucket, typology, persona. So if you have one main typology or persona here, meet 8 people. If you've got more, hypothetically, you're supposed to meet 8 times that, which they may or may not want to do or wait for. But I think because they are just doing the whole workshop with bring in one person and we'll just build what they say, there's a couple of things that you can do here. Number one, do your research. If you need any help planning it or executing it, if you happen to be new to research, I can't tell, you didn't mention, make sure you reach out to me. I'll help as much as I can. You can also join our Slack workspace and send me a private message. It's deltacx.link/join Slack. I and many others are there to help out. But of course, you can private message this to me since it's, very specifically about your work. So if I can help, let me know. Another thing you can do is normally companies, especially in enterprise software, are supposed to be keeping a risk register. There is supposed to be someone who might be in project management or business analysis who is keeping track, or sometimes a risk management team or business intelligence team. It could be really anybody, I can't say. But talk to them and say, we need to put down that there are risks. We need to note that there is a risk of designing our software based on one user. That user could be an outlier or fluke. That user might not be representative of a lot of our target users. That user might have different workflows or approaches, and remind them that's why we tend to meet at least 8 per customer group type segment persona. And that way we're not just dealing in very small sample sizes. Like, yeah, I met 2 people and they think it's fine. No, let's talk to 8, 12, 16. I mean, everyone knows I did a project last year where we met 71 people because we had 6 groups and we were trying to meet 8, 10, 12. By the time we were done, we were meeting 71, 6 or 7 groups. I guess we had 7 groups. So talk to somebody about noting the risk. And that doesn't mean they have to stop the project or someone's going to blame you for anything. Say, look, if they're going to keep going with this, they can keep going with this, but we should at least have made a note of the risk. We should know that there is a risk in only listening to one person's preferences or opinion and designing our entire project or product around that person as if they are representative of every user, which is quite unlikely. So I would get something in the risk register. I would definitely do your study. And I would also see if you can get some usability testing in there, because if the designer is wireframing and prototyping and everyone is in love with it, then great. Take that to usability testing with 5 users who are not the one guy you met. And hopefully you can show, especially if you can record this and show people video clips later, hopefully you can show what the one guy wanted just happens to work for these 5 people, or hey, look, these 5 people happen to have different workflows, different tasks, different needs, different approaches, different levels of knowledge, different whatever. You know, sometimes the boss is using it and sometimes their assistant is using it, and they have different takes on all of this stuff. So I think getting some testing in there would also help you, because you might have some more ammunition on where that design wasn't right. And then you circle back with that risk person and you go, this design is not going to work for everybody. Now we know this. Now we know it's not going, and again, I'm assuming it's not going to work, but let's just imagine that's the outcome. This design is not going to work for everybody. We need to be taking a different approach to this. And if we keep trying to design for one person, we're going to release a product that just happens to work for that one person. Megan says, I am typing a question, but I'm worried that I'm phrasing it wrong. Well, you could always send it into deltacx.link/ask if you want. We have another question coming in anonymously through our old system. So let's copy paste that in. I hope the anonymous person who asked that, I hope that helps. If you have any follow-up questions, let me know. I'm happy to try to help. That's what office hours are all about. I do this every Tuesday. Let's see. Okay. So I10 says, I'm late, but I'm here. Good. All right. So going back to questions. The anonymous question says, advice for collaborating with international team members. I'm working on a project with some colleagues in Europe, and I'm the only one in the States. So it feels like I'm not able to contribute as much. Yeah, I think especially in this pandemic-y world, there shouldn't be any reason why somebody who happens to be in another country is not contributing as much. I found that companies that do that are resisting remote workers. You have to kind of ask, like, is this really going to work out? Because I've been in that situation where I was in San Francisco, everybody else was in Boston, and they would have meetings and not invite me, and they would do some pretty weird things I won't mention that made it clear that they didn't even think of me. So I think, again, we have to take a look here at your manager and take a look at the project manager and talk to this person about how to make sure that you are included, how to make sure that conversations are happening over Slack or whatever your company uses, how to make sure that meetings all have dial-ins or video calls so that you're involved, how to make sure that when people are, if you're working in sprints, if you're sprint planning, that there's work for you to do. So if you're not contributing as much, it sounds like nobody has figured out in this plan what you do. So I would say work with your manager and with the project manager, who may or may not be the product manager in some cases. Work with those people to say, I feel that because I'm over here that I'm not really being included in this, but I'm on the team and I want to contribute and I want to get my work done, but I'm not sure how I can be a more collaborative part of this team. How can we improve collaboration for the whole team, and especially me being remote? And I'm assuming that you're working on European time zones mostly, so that they don't have the excuse of, well, you're 9 hours behind, and so, you're not even awake when we're doing whatever. You would kind of have to adapt to their hours, especially if they're leaving you out of stuff. So that may or may not be a shift that you want. Thanks for that question, and good luck, of course, with the international work. I think we're going to see more and more questions like this because more and more people are going to be working remotely and getting jobs that kind of happen in other places and countries and time zones. And we're all going to have to figure this out. We cannot leave out colleagues just because they live somewhere else. We have to figure out these collaborative methods. And you'd think 18 months into the pandemic, we figured it out. But sounds like this company might be resisting it. I'm caught up on questions, and we still have about a half hour, so I usually stay here until 7:30 p.m. my time, and then I will water my garden and go to sleep. Itan says, good thing with remote working is you can turn off your camera and cry whenever you need. Oh, yes. I had some teeth grinding today. I was thinking I should wear my night guard, which in Italian is called a bite. And I was thinking, I should wear that. I'm like, haven't done crying yet, which is good. But again, crying is allowed. Let it out. Be in that moment with yourself. Go for it. But yes, try to mute and maybe turn off your camera if you are going to be crying. So I'm for the crying, but I'm not sure I'd want to do it, in the video call where they can see me or hear me. Yep. Yeah. Any other questions? Anything on anybody's mind? What's on your mind? What's going on for you? Triumphs, tragedies. Hannah says, I'm late. No, you're never too late. You're here. But I totally agree that customer-centric is better than UX mature, which sounds so judgy. I know, if I could rewrite my book, I would undo the whole UX maturity section, and I would just call it levels of customer centricity. So future version 2 of the Delta CX book, I'm looking at you. I'm not really looking at you. I'm not planning to rewrite that just yet. But yeah, there are parts of it that could use a rewrite, especially how I thought empathy was really important, and then I changed my mind. And now I think that us having empathy isn't important. I think it's important to have sympathy and to care and then to do something. I think that's more important than empathy. I10 has a question. Oh, it's a funny question. Let's see. Her question says, how's your work with the South African company going? Let's put it up on the screen. Anything interesting or scandalous? Well, I probably couldn't tell you about the scandalous. I would have to say it is not very scandalous over in my other job where I'm working with a super South African company called Immersion Group. We will be redoing the website, so don't look at it just yet. Anything interesting? Everything's interesting. Really. I would say everything's interesting there. It's a really interesting company doing a lot of CX, UX, and UI consulting and projects. So certainly it's a good match to my world. pretty much everybody there is a lovely, lovely person. They've done a great job hiring. People are just warm, funny, friendly, intelligent, talented, skilled. It's like a giant bunch of winners. So that's like a really beautiful thing. But of course, there are some internal processes that could be improved. And that's mostly what I've been focusing on. I've been there 2 months now, and trying to fix some of the things that we could do better. And that's really what I'm all about. That's what being Mary Poppins is all about, except I don't plan to fly away so soon. I plan to stick around at this company because, again, they're great people doing the right thing, and just needing some optimizations and improvements. We can improve. You can always improve everything. Improve processes, approaches, culture. There's an opportunity to improve all of these things, and luckily they're giving me the authority to improve it. So that makes it a great match. Okay, we've got a new question. Sorry that wasn't scandalous enough for you. Okay, we've got Megan. And here we go. Let's copy paste it and read it to everybody. All right. And keep the questions coming, because we've just got this one. I would really love to know your advice or guidance about taking on interns as an individual. I have several projects that are in various states and for which I would like to conduct real UX. Well, of course, we welcome real UX. None of this fake UX, y'all. Hi, Halo. I will add your question after this one, and then Itans get a question too. Please hold. I'm copying and pasting them onto the list. All right, so continuing from the other question. I've outlined the things that need to be done, and I'm excited about multiple check-ins a week to review, give feedback, empower to move forward. I also want to help junior designers get real-world experience to close that 0 to 1 year gap, and I want to do a good job mentoring them. Can you recommend a structure I can follow to make sure I'm not missing anything as a mentor or project leader? Are there pitfalls that I should look out for? Is it just hubris that makes me think I can effectively lead interns? No, I think you can effectively lead interns because we've spoken before, so you're slightly known to me. I don't know your work, but we got to talking a little bit. Oh, Kate, I see you have a follow-up question. I'll chase that in a moment, or just a general question. So I think that one of the things, first of all, if you haven't already looked, I've got an apprenticeship model on the Delta CX website. So take a look at deltacx.com. I think it's under models and it says apprenticeship. But one of the main things that I think that coaches or mentors need to do for apprentices or interns is double check everything. I see a lot of people say, yeah, my mentor checked in with me once a week, or my mentor checked in with me every other week. Now, you already know that's not good enough. You wrote multiple check-ins a week. But again, make sure that I think the key thing is I typically don't let people move on to the next thing until this thing is great. And that means estimating a really long project, because they're not going to get it right the first time. So for example, let's start with research. We need real research. We have to start with a research plan. Okay, intern, do you want to take a shot at writing a research plan? Here's a couple of ones I've written before. It uses models. Write that up, run it by me. I'll talk to you in a day or two. Now take a look at that, or meet with them, or put it into Google Docs and comment on it and have them improve it. But basically, the project doesn't move forward, and they don't move forward until you love that research plan. It doesn't make sense to move forward with a plan that's especially when it's a real project with real clients. So you have to go through a lot of cycles with people, and you're right, it's going to be multiple check-ins each week. I estimate that it could be, I don't remember what's in my on my webpage, I think I said, 4 or 5 hours per week you might end up spending to check out people's work and their progress and fill in the blanks for things they don't know or didn't understand. Because remember, if they get something wrong, they might not have understood it, or they're not applying things that they've learned correctly. So you can't just be like, hey, try that again. You have to give them really concrete stuff. So I would say the pitfalls would be not concrete enough feedback. The pitfalls would be not checking their work enough. The pitfalls would be moving to the next thing when the last thing wasn't as good as it could have been. This is their chance to really learn what doing the right thing looks like. And so I don't want you to move on too early. Is there a structure? I just follow the structure of the project. So if the project has, if it's research plan, screener survey, research questions, well, that might be part of the plan, or sometimes people do them separately. Recruiting, scheduling. So again, I don't have any other structure than I'm going to follow the project plan, but hopefully you've kind of stretched out the project plan so that you have time to do all of these cycles of review. Otherwise, you're going to get frustrated with them. You've got to move on to the next thing. They're still doing their second pass at that other thing, and now you're under pressure to move on. So it takes a lot of project planning and hopefully a patient client who understands that this is going to take a little bit longer because there's something else going on here. And I do recommend paying them. There you go. Siddharth, I see your question. I see your question, but it'll have to come after our anonymous questions, which came in not anonymously, but let's add them. Let's see, we've got Kate is back. And we've got Nina. And let's copy paste that, and then we'll get Siddharth's question. And I wonder if that will bring us to the end of the show, because these are some long questions, which means probably long answers. And let's grab the other one. Oh, that was helpful. Okay, great. And if it's not helpful, you know how to find me and we can talk more about it. All right, so let's get going with these questions, and maybe that will take us to the end of the show. Let's give it a go. All right. Okay. I-10 had a question. Let's put that up. Is UX industry the same there too? Is it super competitive? And are people trying to take the Google UX course? I'm super curious. You mean South Africa? I don't think you mean Italy. I think you mean South Africa. It is super, currently it's not, I don't know what the right word is for not. Oh, sorry, there was a question in between. Sorry. Halo had a question. Let's put it up quickly. Halo says, what do you think about Twitter's controversial new font? I don't use Twitter and I don't know anything about it. So you'll have to tell me. I apologize that I skipped your question at first, but I genuinely don't know what's going on with Twitter. Oh, that was South Africa. Okay, hold on. I'm on the wrong screen here. Here we go. There we go. So in South Africa, there are much fewer qualified CX and UX workers. So those people right now can kind of get any pay they want and any job they want. It's very, very different from what's going on everywhere else, or many other places, not everywhere else. Many other places, especially North America and Western Europe, where, especially thanks to boot camps, there are thousands of people or hundreds of people applying for the same job. Not the case just yet in South Africa. There aren't a lot of boot camps there, and so it's mostly people coming from other backgrounds transitioning in. But because it's not that hot yet, there are very few qualified people, and we're all fighting over hiring them. Fazia says, wait, isn't empathy about caring? Where have I been living? Oh, yes, in design thinking workshops. Well, then you are doing fake empathy, and you know it. Enjoy the fake empathy. All right, let's get back to our anonymous questions. Semi-anonymous. This was from Kate, who I guess is semi-anonymous. And Kate says, hello, Debbie. What is your advice for working as UX in a software house? Right now, my working process is a disaster. Once I'm in one project, then something from another project comes to me which is still developed without me. Sometimes I have 4 different contexts on the same day, and of course, no time for a proper UX process. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit in episode episode 116. Everyone drink. And that the problem is that as long as things like that are happening in UX, they're just going to keep yelling at us that we're not agile. And they're going to assume that you must not need really UX. You must not need UX because we get Kate, a few hours here and there. What's the good of what she's doing? We probably don't need it. And so there is this kind of ongoing cycle and problem. We've got, and again, we have some anonymous questions coming up, and they will be anonymous. When we can mix them up. So, I don't have a great answer for you because you're basically asking me, how do I completely change the way my company works to hire more UX people, resource and allocate me differently, care about what I actually do, blah, blah, blah. Look, I'm for that. I want that to happen for you and for everybody else, but I don't have a silver bullet that says, hey, Kate, here's what you have to say to your manager to get all of this to go away. You can always have a watch party at your company with my episode 116 in the playlist. Which playlist? Live podcast playlist, episode 116. It's really, really long, but you could break it up or turn it into a half-day adventure. But that would hopefully help people understand. But again, when companies are low maturity or not customer-centric, these are the things they do. They think UX is somebody who can just drop by for a few hours and spit and shine up our project a little bit and go to some other one. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you because this is happening all the time and it's hard to fix. It's hard to fix, and it's what we talk about almost daily on this channel. So I'm sorry, no magic bullet, but hopefully little things I recommend here and there, things in episode 116 will hopefully give you some ammunition to take back to your job, especially your manager. You have to explain to your manager that you cannot get good work done when you're all over the place. So hopefully that will help. So we've got some anonymous questions, some non-anonymous questions. Keep them coming, everybody. One question that came in says, is service design an exhaustive version of redundant design thinking sessions in the corporate world? What might be the future of service design in enterprises? I'm going to go with no. How could you say that about service design? Service design is really, really important and predates our modern definition of design thinking. So no, service design has a future. Service design is about looking at the service side of things and what are the processes that are happening. You can look at the processes that are happening internal to the company to make a product or service happen. And sometimes there are versions where you're looking at kind of that customer journey map side of a service. Nielsen Norman Group has a couple of nice articles on this. And I don't think of service design as necessarily being connected to design thinking. Very often I see design thinking as being about solving products, but I have seen that in some CX circles, people are throwing around the term design thinking when they want to do service design. Hold on, I'm going to turn on the fan. It's getting warm in here. My IKEA clock says it's 80 Fahrenheit at my desk, so yikes. Still summer here, everybody. So no, service design shouldn't be exhaustive, redundant design thinking. Service design should be knowledgeable, talented, skilled CX or UX people who know how to work with qualitative and quantitative information about what is happening with this particular service or what's needed in this service and are blueprinting it and improving it. It's like task analysis, but for services. So what's the future of it? I hope we keep doing it and I hope we do it more because many services suck and I don't think companies are looking at them closely enough. A lot of companies think that design thinking or service design or CX is about a better call center. A better call center is fine, but how about you fix the crappy thing that made me have to call the call center? Seth says, looks like I missed some South Africa discussions. I got a few questions, Seth. I told them of your greatness, but I did not name you. So there's that. We have a few more minutes. I'm going to take another anonymous question, but if you've got questions, send them in. So this was anonymous, and it says, "Hi, Debbie. I'm at a crossroads. I received an offer to work at a more UX mature company that has mentorship opportunities, though I've heard some sticky things about leadership. On the other hand, my current company respects me greatly, offered me paid learning and coursework, a strong counteroffer, a path towards promotion, and support for moving across company projects as our merger finalizes in the next months. The kicker? Less of a UX maturity, design culture, and fewer mentorship opportunities. I'm well respected where I'm at and I like my job, coworkers, but I don't want to turn down what could be a strong learning opportunity either. I know you're not an advice columnist. Yes, I am! But I really could use some advice right now. Thank you very much." Well, let's also turn to the chat room. What would you advise to this anonymous person? What would you tell an anonymous person to do? Stay with the current company or go with the new company? Let's take a look at some of the pros and cons, at least the way that I see them. So, first of all, it sounds like there are learning opportunities in the company. They're going to give you paid learning and coursework, but they're not necessarily, it sounds like there might not be a mentor or coach there who is a UX expert who can help you. Sorry, I've got a bug flying over my head. Who can help you with some of your day-to-day work. Now, what I recommend normally in that case is if this company is throwing money around to try to keep you, would they throw money at an outside mentor or coach? Because I do that now, and there are other people who do that, so this is not just a plug for me. But there are people, me included, who will come in and mentor and coach people, especially where there's budget, because I do get paid. I'm charging 50 American dollars a half hour. If you need that in another currency, please translate it. And people usually book half hours or hours with me. Hours are usually better. But so first of all, does all mentoring and coaching have to come from inside the company? Sometimes it doesn't. That's where you can hopefully get that outside mentor or coach. I do have someone right now who I won't name, who, because you would know this person, who I am doing some mentoring and coaching with, and their company's paying for it. And so it's a beautiful thing. So number one, I wonder if that's available to you. Number two, were you trying to leave this company in the first place? Because you got this other offer. Were you applying to jobs, or did they kind of come for you? So I don't know, because if you were applying for jobs, then that tells me you weren't that happy where you are. You're saying, I kind of like my job and I like my coworkers, but then I'm wondering, were you applying for jobs, or did they just find you? Because if you're applying for jobs, maybe you're not as happy as you think. So there would be that piece to it. Whatever I'm up to, I really like what your current company is trying to do to keep you. I think that's really respectable. I think that's strong. I think that's nice. I think that shows that they really do want to keep you and not just watch you walk away. So somebody appreciates you. Somebody appreciates you and what you're doing, even if it's low UX maturity. Somebody must get that you're making a difference there. Otherwise, they would go, "Oh yeah, UX, he just puts a button on a page and, anyone can do that. Yeah, let him go." So there's that. But there's also the merger. And we have to also ask ourselves, and you probably don't know the answer, because very often we don't know the answer until it happens. And that is, when the merger is finalized, what will happen to your team? What will happen to your department? What will happen to your job? I've worked at companies where there was a merger or acquisition going on, and everybody's jobs were going away. And this was in a place that had a bunch of full-time people who were not expecting to be laid off. And all of a sudden the merger said, "Oh yeah, we like what you do, but we've got a department. We already have a department who does that in the other company. So we're just going to use them." I've been in that situation a few times. And so, they can't really guarantee that this job will still be there, because we may or may not know what new senior leadership or combined leadership will do with the current job. So that is a bit of an unknown to me. The merger thing is tough. And it also depends, are you the company buying or merging with the, who's the lead company here in the merger. If it's yours, your job's more likely to stay, but you just never really know. Couple of comments coming up in the chat room. Let's see what people are saying, and then we'll keep talking this out. I-10 says, mentors are the best. First thing I'll do with my first future salary is get a mentor. Second, a bottle of fine wine. Third, a good ergonomic chair. I love my chair. I recommend it. All right, and Seth says, maturity over everything really resolves a lot of the downstream issues with having to explain yourself, your process, the value of work, etc., etc., etc. I definitely see Seth's point. I think you can put that in the pros column for the possible new job, but there's something here that you know something and you didn't tell us, and so we're not operating with as much information as you have. Remember, you said you've heard sticky things about leadership. Now, they're sticky, and they're sticky. I don't know how sticky. Is this leadership that is unethical? Is this leadership that is doing microaggressions to minorities? Is this leadership who is sexually harassing or assaulting people? You have to decide where you know the answer to this. You don't have to tell us what it is, but you have to decide where you are on that moral or ethical scale. Because if leadership is doing unpleasant stuff, this typically defines what I've talked about this before. I didn't coin this term, the decision genome. That Mike Robinson coined this, and he wrote it in a blog post about something an email client called Superhuman had really effed up. And he talked about decision genome. And he said, once you have some bad decisions and some unethical stuff and some dark patterns, it's going to color everything else. So be careful about what might happen there. Someone might say, hey, should we do this unethical thing? And someone else will go, yeah, remember that when that leader did that thing? Yeah, we can do that. And Mike Robinson points out that this is normally used as precedent. And that's where this goes bad. Seth says, let me clarify. Seth is clarifying. Yeah, because this was long. Not only was this long, but remember, I'm looking at the words so I can refer back. You all were just listening to it, so you might not remember all of it. I wouldn't expect you to. So Seth says, whoa, to clarify, morals and ethics before maturity. So again, when you say leadership has done sticky things, you are going to have to decide what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. I'll give you an example. I get private messages from people in our low ego action hero community who have gone off to work for a FANG company: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. And they know that there's something in that company, or maybe multiple things, that are not the most ethical. But they think they can go there and not be a part of that, or they can go there and change it because they're a change agent. And then they find out, I can't change this. This is who this company is. I can't make them more ethical. I quit that other job. I'm here now. Now what do I do? Veracitus says, is Superhuman doing something off curler, or did I hear wrong? This was a couple of years ago. I was writing my book and this had just happened. So this was like 2018, 2019. Totally Googleable. I don't remember the name of the blog post now, but I think if you Google Mike Robinson Superhuman, you'll find it. They had done something not good. They claimed to have fixed it, but Mike Robinson, but their reaction to having been caught doing something not right was so bad that this great blog post was written explaining how bad decisions will become precedent for other bad decisions. So, anonymous person, think about what this sticky thing is and how it could affect your job, how it could affect the culture at the company, how it could affect your experiences. Are you safe there? Are you psychologically safe there? Are you physically safe there? Is this something you are going to lay awake at night wondering, oh my God, what have I done? So I would take a long, hard look at that. I would probably, if I felt that the ethics were a deal breaker for me, or the sticky things were a deal breaker for me, then I would stay with the current company. They're really trying hard to keep you. And I think what you could try to do, and talk to your manager about this, is try to turn the job into what you want it to be. Say, look, I want to stay here. Your offer is nice. I like this. I like this. I like that. I like this. I like that. I like this. I like that. But I'm not as effective as I want to be because the company doesn't totally understand UX, or I'm not as effective. I can't do the best job that I want to do because when I go to do it, engineering goes and does this. Or when I do it, I get circumvented or whatever. Go use this opportunity to say, can we take another look at processes? Can we take another look at how this is done? Because not only is this crappy for my job and makes me think about leaving, but it can't be great for customers. This can't be leading to maximum customer satisfaction. So see if you can turn it into more of the job that you want. So it sounds like more mature company with mentoring. And again, what do we know about that mentoring? So again, if we're going to say the grass is greener on the other side, I would say, what is that mentoring? What does that look like? How many hours a week is someone going to put aside for you? Because I've heard all kinds of stories from people who said, yeah, they said they're going to mentor me. And then you get like an hour a month with somebody. So again, take a look at what that means. And then if you want to compare apples to apples, will your company create a budget for you to get your own mentor, an outside mentor? I call it a fractional CX lead, someone who can act as your lead on this kind of part-time basis, either with recurring meetings or as needed. So I guess I'm probably leaning a little bit more towards the current company, but only if the ethics were good and I felt like I could possibly be on a path to redefine my job. So, okay, looks like Kayleen, who of course is our chief investigator, says it's an article from the Mike Industries blog. Superhuman has decided to embed hidden tracking pixels inside emails its customers sends out without consent. And then what ended up happening was so let's say Seth sends me an email and it was reporting back to Seth what time I opened that email, but what my location was because it sniffed my IP. And the question came up of, what if an abusive person sends someone they're hurting an email and now they know, ooh, they opened it, and ooh, here's their location, even just the city. Here's where this person is. That's got some, that fits into my risk mitigation workshop. That could go bad. And people didn't know that this information was being given to the person who sent the email. So it was a big, ugly thing. And Aitan says, yeah, how do we know what kind of mentoring it is? What if it's poopy mentoring? How do we know they're going to deliver on what they promise? People might lie. Yeah, you don't know until you get a contract. The contract should say you're getting this. And if the mentoring is a perk or a benefit, it should say that you're going to get 2 hours a week from a senior level or higher UX professional who's going to review your work and boop bop a beep. So I would want that spelled out because I don't want to find out later that it's going to be someone 6 months ahead of my career trajectory who's going to be my work buddy. And sometimes they'll look at my work. So yeah, I would definitely want to check on that. But I feel like in this case, the mentorship could be replaced by me or someone like me. But what about all the other stuff? It looks like they really do want to try to support you in more areas. And I think you can use this opportunity to try to write your own job. Ooh, we're running late. So get in touch with me if you think I can help more. I do answer questions on Slack for free. If you really need coaching time, you can grab that. deltacx.link/coaching. You can, if you've never had coaching with me before, you are all welcome to sign up for a free 15-minute session. And if you have had the free 15-minute session and you want more, you would have to pay. So there's two different types of appointments you can make when you hit the coaching URL. One will say free 15 minutes and the other will say paid. If it is paid, I do open up my weekend calendar to you. If it is free, it's just nights in Italy. So, another benefit there. I think that's going to do it for this show because we're pretty much out of time. Lots of great questions today. Thank you. Sorry again to all the people who are struggling with some tough things at work and some tough decisions. And in some cases, some things you might not be able to change and you have to decide, am I moving on or not? Slack. Where do we find the Slack? Yeah. So the Slack is totally free to join. I do not have like a gated community or a monthly membership. You're all welcome there. deltacx.link/join Slack. And we've got over 800 people there, but about 100 are active at any given time. People kind of come and go as they need our advice. And even one of our friends of the show is expecting a job offer soon and was like, do I have to leave? It's like, no, you can stay forever. It is not just a place to complain. It is a place for us to celebrate our wins as well and help each other out even when we get into jobs. So everyone is welcome in the Slack, except for people who are being jerks. I've only had to kick out like 2 people. So we're doing pretty well. So that's it. Remember, tomorrow I am doing a micro lesson. It's going to be another of my famous off the cuff, winging it micro lessons. I'm going to show you how I set up unmoderated studies. I'm going to show you a recent study that I did that was a usability test using an actual prototype. I can't show you the prototype because I don't want to give too much away about the client or the research, but I will show you how I set it up and the way that we had defined that research and how I used a particular tool, hashtag not sponsored, to utilize that. So thanks to everybody for joining, and I guess I'll play us out of here, but be well, wear a lot of masks, please keep isolating. I keep hearing about people who are double vaccinated who are still getting sick, and while obviously your chances are better when you're vaccinated, you can still get sick, and you can get sick ugly, and you can get sick long, and you can get sick serious, even though, again, the vaccine lowers that chances. I'm still hearing about people getting ill. So please be careful. It's we need you. We need you here. We want the subscribers. No, it's me being selfish and silly. We need you here. So thanks to everybody. Please do subscribe. And remember, office hours is every Tuesday. I hope to see you next week, but we'll also see you tomorrow for the micro lesson. Thanks and be well. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are